There have been a couple of debates so far in this federal election. The first one, hosted by Maclean's magazine, had 4 party leaders in it: Stephen Harper, Thomas Mulcair, Justin Trudeau, and Elizabeth May. May played the role of jester. Since she has virtually zero statistical chance of winning, her role is that of a spoiler. In that debate, it meant interrupter and attacker. And as we showed you in a previous video that you can see here, it was curious that 100% of her attacks were against Stephen Harper or Thomas Mulcair. She never once criticized or interrupted Justin Trudeau, even when she disagreed with him on policies. In other words, she's Justin Trudeau's debating tag team partner. Lord knows he needs one. So in the second debate, hosted this time by the Globe and Mail, Elizabeth May was excluded. That second debate had its own challenges, but it was markedly improved by omitting Elizabeth May. Seriously, she's an MP, sure, but in real life, she's really just a tax-paid pundit. She is the dictionary definition of a fringe candidate. But hey, that's the Globe and Mail's right to have who they want or not at their debate. They didn't invite the Libertarian Party leader on either, or the Marxist-Leninist Party leader. I mean, that would be nuts. Well, the next debate is scheduled to be hosted by the Munk Center in Toronto with sponsorship from the OUR Foundation. It's a registered charity, and sensibly, they too want to omit kooky Elizabeth May. I mean, she's the kind of candidate who thinks that wireless internet causes cancer. She abides 9/11 trutherism, etc. Seriously, do we really need her in the debate? No. But look at what May has done. She has filed a legal complaint to the Canada Revenue Agency against the OUR Foundation, saying that by excluding her, that charity is not being nonpartisan. And so it's violating its charitable status, and it should be sanctioned. Isn't that interesting? And it's true in a way. Registered charities under the Income Tax Act cannot be partisan. They cannot champion one party or a candidate or attack another. And they specifically are advised by the Canada Revenue Agency not to show favoritism in all candidates' forums. Elizabeth May says being excluded is therefore illegal partisanship by a charity. Now, OUR and Munk counter by saying she's not a real parliamentary party. She only has 2 seats. It would be like having that Libertarian Party or the Communists too. I think they're probably right, but she has a grain of the law on her side too if you take a very strict approach to nonpartisanship. Now, May's complaint has received a ton of media coverage because she's Elizabeth May, a left-wing pundit, really, an anti-Harper attacker, a Justin Trudeau nanny, etc. Don't think for a minute the Libertarian Party would have received similar support. And all of a sudden, the old stock media is reporting about political limits on charities and agreeing with those limits. But hang on, where were the media, where was Elizabeth May when all sorts of environmentalist groups with charitable status were campaigning against Harper? Like the Suzuki Foundation, like all sorts of environmental charities, like Environmental Defense, which actually boasted in the last election of making 50,000 robocalls against the Conservatives, all using CRA charitable status money. Then the mainstream media and the Green Party and all the old stock media, then they said that it was censorship to criticize environmental defense and it would be political interference, yada, yada. Isn't that funny? The one time they want to attack a charity and shut it up is the one time a lefty is excluded by a charity. Me, I think the Munk Debates ought to be allowed to exclude cranks like May. But to me, the real takeaway here is just more proof that the media doesn't really care about the rule of law or consistency. They love partisan charities like the Suzuki Foundation. They've ignored our efforts in the past to hold them accountable, such as our campaign at www.AuditSuzuki.ca that you can learn about right here. Why? Why would the media ignore partisanship that favors environmentalists and attack partisanship that disfavors environmentalists? Well, because the media are just as partisan as the Green Party. For TheRebel.media, I'm Ezra Levant.